In this segment, we're going to talk about a rather popular topic, and that's displaying images with HTML. I've already created images.html, our basic document structure, and changed the title to displaying images. Now, I have a couple of images ready to go that I have already in the folder that we're going to save this particular file in. So to display an image is rather easy. We use the image tag, and then we use the source attribute. And then the value of the source attribute is simply the name of the image or the path to the image that we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and I believe I called it javascript.png, which is a banner for another course that I do, a JavaScript course. That's all it takes just to display the image. Now, there is a little more to it than that, of course, but this will actually get the image displayed for us. Let's go ahead and pull up the browser here. And there is the image displayed in the browser. Pretty easy. So there's our image, and there is the code that displayed the image. Image source equals java.png. Now, you really should add to your images what are called alt attributes, A-L-T. That stands for alternative. And the purpose of the alternative text is to provide a text representation of the image for someone who might be surfing without the images turned on. Maybe they're on a mobile device with a slow connection, or they're visually impaired, or something like that. So I'm going to put here Mark Lassoff's JavaScript course. All right, so that provides a text alternative. Now, in some browsers, for example, older versions of Internet Explorer, if you point at the image, that actually pops up as a tooltip. That's not true of most contemporary browsers. Let's just do one more. So I'm going to do image source equals, and this one is logo.png, and the alternative is going to be learn2program.tv logo. Right, and we'll shortcut close that particular tag. Let's put a break tag between these so they appear one after another, one on top of another, I should say. All right, so there's our browser. We'll go ahead and refresh. And notice that it didn't find learn2program.tv logo. It didn't find the image. It's not displaying it, but it's displaying that alternative text instead here in Firefox. So if we pull up the actual folder that contains our files, let's take a look at what we see in there. So here we go into HTML, chapter 5 and 5.1. And notice it's logo_200.png. So that's why it didn't find the file, but that gave us a chance to look at the alternative text. So let me change this back now to logo_200.png. We'll save, and let's take a look at it in Firefox. And there's the logo. So again, in some browsers, that alternative text will appear also if the image link is broken. So displaying images is pretty easy, no real problems there. Now, oftentimes we want the image itself to function like a link. If someone clicks the image, they go to a specific site. So we actually do a link that's an image just like we do a link in text. So we use the anchor tag. We put it before the image, href equals, and then the website we're going to, so it's going to be http://www.learn2program.tv. So there's our URL. I'll put the closing anchor tag on the other side. You always want to remember to close your anchor tags, because otherwise after the opening tag, everything else is included in the link. Let's try it. Again, we'll open Firefox. All right, so now notice this ugly purple border around this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. When we go ahead and click, and notice that we load the learn2program.tv website, so the link worked. But let's talk about this ugly purple border. Some browsers by default put a border around images that are links. Now, I don't know why they do this, because almost nobody really wants this border, but browsers put it there. Let's take a look at Chrome. Let's see if Chrome gives us that ugly purple or blue border, depending on whether or not we've visited the link before. So we'll preview here in Chrome. And notice there's no border in Chrome, but that's still a link, because if I click on it, we go to the website. So we have an example here of browsers behaving a little bit differently. So usually in CSS somewhere, in cascading style sheets, what we do is, let's put in our style tag, type equals text/CSS. We simply set the border property of the image to 0. So we use the image tag as our selector, and then we simply set border to 0 pixels. Let's go ahead and I think we've saved already. Yep, we have. All right. So let's now bring it up in Firefox, which we know puts that ugly border around it, and let's see if we get one. And we do not. This is Firefox. It's had the border before, and again, it's because we added that little bit of CSS. Most people will do this because nobody wants those borders around their images. One of the things that's important to understand is how images and text interact with each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a paragraph tag here, and I'm going to close the paragraph right here. And after the image and the anchor, I'm going to go ahead and just paste in some text. So we've got some text here that's going to interact with the image. They're in the same paragraph. They're part of the same element. So let's see what happens when we look at this in Firefox. And you'll notice the bottom of the image, there's some white space in the image, lines up with the bottom of the line of text. The text doesn't kind of flow around the image floats on the same line. Here, let me prove it to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little of the text before the image. So I'm going to put that here. And watch how the text and the image flow together. Now, for most purposes, this is less than optimal. People want the image to flow around the text. So we can make the image flow around the text actually pretty easily. What I do is, in the image tag, I can set this to align equals left. Now, watch what happens when we pull this up in Firefox. And I'm going to refresh. And notice how the text now flows around the image. The image is aligned to the left. Just as easily, I could set the align attribute to right, and the text will flow around the image with the image aligned to the right of the browser. I want to use Firefox here. So we'll refresh. And now there's the image on the right with the text flowing around it. Now, while a lot of people use this technique, I'm not a big fan of this technique. And the reason I'm not a big fan of this technique is it requires that you use an attribute that has to do with the look and feel of the content. Remember that I like to use the HTML just for the content format. I don't like to use it for design. And here, by doing this, we're kind of designing with HTML, which I like to try and avoid. Now, this can be accomplished with CSS, and we'll see how to do that later on in the course.